Hello, we're recording now. This is Monday of week 4 for Math 25. We've been working on homework. Let me do a quick review of what we've been doing during the study sessions. And then we're about to start doing a review from the Health Decisions Overall Test. So we started with the 10 exercises for the calories topic. There was the exercise formula where you multiply a weight by a minute and the scale factor. The scale factor came from the table. Again, the trickiness that could happen with these problems is the problem might give you a time that's not minutes. If it says 2 hours, we'd have to do 120 minutes and know to change. The third problem was similar, except that Caroline has 2 kinds of exercise. So we had a part A of walking and a part B of shopping, and then we added them together at the end. In between, the second problem was going from grams of fat and carbs and protein to calories of fat and carbs and protein. And it was multiplying either by 4 or 9. Fat was 9, everything else was 4. And then the fourth problem, we were saying, what's 60% of a number? And that got us on the topic of these percent sentences that have a what, an is, an of, and a percent in there somewhere, as well as another number. And there were 2 ways to do these. The translation method, of means multiply, is means equals, what means y. So what means y, is means equals, of means multiply. And you don't want to put a percent in the calculator, it doesn't work well. So we use the RipLop trick, right into percent, left out of percent. So we went left out of percent twice. And then in this case, it was easy, I just multiply. If you don't like that, there was the proportion method, which you write the skeleton of the proportion. The percent you write over 100, and you don't need RipLop because we're writing it as a fraction instead of a decimal this time. There's always something that comes after the word of, so that goes in the bottom on the other side. And then whatever we haven't used left yet goes on the top on the right side. To solve this proportion, since we were kind of low on room, we used the shortcut where you multiply the 2 numbers that are opposite each other and then divide by the odd one out that's opposite the y. So we're going to do both of those. And on the health decisions test, there's number 7, one of the possible review problems. And every time I reload this page, it gives me a different percent sentence. And notice that sometimes the what is in the beginning, sometimes the what is in the middle, and sometimes the what is at the end. Oops, I missed it. So the one we generated first was 155.4 is 60% of what? So let's do that twice. Let's do it as the translation method on one side of the screen. And we'll do it as the proportion method on the other side of the screen. So the translate method, I'm going to rewrite it just to be a little clearer so your eyes don't have to jump over my yellow writing. Okay, so for the translate method, then I take each and I translate it. A number stays a number. The percentage, we're going to use our RipLop for. So going left out of percent, and we get 0.6. Okay, what are the other translating parts? Someone call them out.
would the equal sign.
Yep.
Of would be the multiplication sign.
Mhm. Yep.
And what would be the y?
Yeah. And I use y's so they don't look like multiplication x's. If you like x's, that's fine, whatever letter you want. Okay, now we have one of these equations. Something is something else times y. How do I get y by itself? Well, the opposite of a times 0.6 is going to be a divided by 0.6. And if I do something to one side of the equation, I have to be fair and do it together. So that gets y by itself. And what is 155.4 divided by 0.6? I'm getting 259. So that made some people happy, like the translation method. The proportion method, going back to those 4 steps, and jump back to the previous slide or the spot in notes if you need. We make the proportion kind of skeleton, fraction bar equals fraction bar. We look for the percent and we write it as something over 100. We look for whatever comes after the word of, and that goes on the bottom on the other side. So of what? My unknown is the thing that's on the other side. I'll put my letter there. And then lastly, there's something that I haven't used yet. And that goes on the top. Oops. Again, I'll do my shortcut for proportions because I'm kind of out of room. I multiply things that are opposite each other, and then I divide by the one opposite the y. And I all get the same answer. Don't have to know both methods. Pick whichever method you like better. Should we do another one of these? Now, before I ask again, does our answer seem reasonable? So I want a little more than half, right? 50% would be half. So a little more than half of something is about 150. Does it make sense that a little more than half of 260 might be that? Sure, right? Half of 260 would be 130. This is a bit more, so that seems reasonable. We should think like that before we actually are done. Okay, should we do another one of these percent sentences? Yes, no?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. We just did one with the what last. Let's do one with the what in the middle. Oops, 372. Okay, so what colors did I use last time? I used blue arrows. So my number stays a number. Is becomes
Equals.
equals what percent? That's my unknown letter. Of becomes multiply, and a number stays a number. So something is y times something else. To get y by itself, I'll divide by whatever that thing attached to y is. And if I do it to one side, to be fair, I have to do it to the other side. So what do I get? 316.2 divided by 372, 0.85. So that's a valid bit of math, but I'm not done yet. What's my last step going to be?
The percent.
Yeah, whoever wrote this problem asked for a percent. So I need to make it a percent. This time I'm going into percent, right into percent. So I get 85%. Everyone who likes the translation method, okay?
Yeah.
If you're a proportion person, this time my percent is the thing I don't know. The thing after the word of is the number 372. And the thing that I haven't used yet, oops, what did I do? Blue? Must be blue. Is the 316.2. So same thing before, let's multiply the ones that are opposite each other, divide by the odd one out. And this time when you do it, you're going to get 85. There's no riplop if you're doing the proportion method, because 85 over 100 is already the fraction format of our percent. So we just put the label on and we're done. Questions on either way?
No.
Okay, we'll do this a lot, especially now that we're in the money chapter. So it's good review time. Any other homework questions people have? Doesn't have to be from the calories topic. Any other homework people want to do? No, okay, well then let's go on to new stuff. So last time there was class on Friday, we talked about the typicality and the bell curves, just sort of introducing that what is typical isn't quite an obvious thing, and we have some careful words in math to be clear about all that. So now we're actually starting the talking about money with the mortgages. Okay, how big, oh, is the font big enough for everybody before I just start reading to you?
Yeah.
How big a home can a certain household afford? Let's work step by step and answer this question. And we need some hypothetical family. So let's imagine that the Wall family has an annual income of 60,000. And that's pretty close to the median income for both Oregon and overall the United States. I just used a word median, which is one of those types of what is typical. The median was the one where you sorted the list of numbers and just picked the middle ones. How big the extremes were didn't matter. So that if there's someone who's a gazillionaire and someone who has no income, then they are both sort of passed over as we're getting towards the middle of the list. Okay, a monthly payment size. There's a general rule for how big your mortgage or apartment payment should be. First, let's look at 35% of your household's income before taxes. And second, we'll find a quarter of your after-tax income. And your total annual expenses for housing should be between those two numbers. And that's annual, so that's for the whole year. To find the monthly payment that makes sense for your budget, then you would divide by 12 to go from a year to months. So the Wall family does this. Their pre-tax income was again 60,000. So they find 35% of it. They're multiplying by 0.35 because that was again how we did percent of a number. When we looked at what we did here, then if it's percent of a number, the of is going to be multiply, so I can just use riplop and multiply. The y is always on the other side, minding its own business, away from the equal sign. So percent of a number, do riplop and multiply. So they took the 60,000, multiplied it by the 0.35. They got something big, divided by 12, and 1,750. Second step, their after-tax income. Well, they paid about 8,000 in taxes, so their after-tax income is about 52,000. They wanted to find 25% of that. So again, the of becomes multiply and times 0.25. They got a big number divided by 12 and you get $1,083. So this general guideline advises them that monthly mortgage payment should be somewhere between $1,083 or $1,750. And it's a general rule because housing depends a lot on where you live. If you're in New York City or if you're in Springfield, things would be very different. Anyway, the Wall family thinks about their priorities, and they have a kid, they have some chronic health issues. They decide to aim at the lower end of the price range. So how about $1,100 a month? Everyone okay with our story so far?
Yeah.
You're not going to be asked to do this part very often. In most of the homework and test problems, it just gives you this part. I want to spend this much per month on a mortgage. Okay, now sort of part two of our story. How big a house can they get for $1,100 per month? So this is a very complicated math problem. You could imagine that there was the original loan called the principal, and it goes down every month as they pay it off. But it's also true that there's interest. So every month it gets bigger by an amount too. So it's shrinking and it's growing at the same time, and that's complicated. So this kind of problem we don't want to do each time. Fortunately, it's already been solved for us. And the vocab word is amortization. That's paying off debt with scheduled repayments that repeat and always have the same amount. And we're going to use this amortization table. And just like our tables so far in the health chapter, this table is a very simplified thing. In real life, the interest rates are not just 5, 6, 7, and 8%, but they get bigger and smaller, and there's decimal amounts too. Maybe your family has a mortgage of 5.3% or 3.8% or something like that. It's also true that how long you get a mortgage doesn't have to be a multiple of 5 years. But we only need a few numbers to do example problems. So rather than have the huge amortization table that someone in real estate would really be working with, we're just going to use the simplified one and assume that all of the interest rates are either the whole numbers 5, 6, 7, and 8, or all of the years are 10, 15, 20, 25, or 30. But kind of just be aware in the back of your head that the people that really do this for a living have a bigger table. And they also probably these days have a computer, and they can just look up what's the 3.8% rate for a 23-year loan and get the answer. Okay, so how do we use this table? It shows us the correct monthly payment for a $1,000 loan. Up at the top, it says monthly payment for $1,000 of loan. If you were to loan me $1,000, I could barely get a nice garden shed for the backyard, let alone a whole house. So if this is per 1,000, then that means if I want a bigger loan, I have to pay this amount more than once. So let's do an example with that. So number 17, find the monthly payment for a $130,000 loan, knowing it's a 20-year loan and the interest rate is 6%. So how many thousands of dollars of loan do we have? Don't make this harder than it is. When you read out the size of the loan, how many thousands is that? Everyone's quiet. Okay, I will just give it away. Okay, if I read this number, 130,000, that just tells me that there's 130 times there was $1,000 of loan. Then I look at this table, and the table says 20-year loan and 6%. So we go to the 20-year and the 6%, and they meet right here. So for each $1,000 of loan, I have to pay $7.16. So what is that? 130 times 7.16, $930.80. Okay, now that I'm not asking you a question, does it make sense looking back at it?
Yes.
It's a little awkward. We're not used to just peeling the 3 zeros off a number like this, but that's what we need to do. Okay, unfortunately, that's not very practical. No one in real life will ever say, congratulations, you have just become a homeowner, figure out your own monthly payment. What we want to do is work backwards and say, my family has estimated what they want their monthly payment to be. How big a mortgage could we afford? And we've seen this before. When we went to the calories and trimming produce, the yield percent was designed to go from the store to the pot. If we buy 200 pounds of carrots, 81% of that will go in our giant stew to feed an army. So we usually use the yield percent backwards, not by multiplying times 0.81, but by dividing to go from the pot to the store. If we need this many carrots in the pot, how many extra do we need to buy? So this is the same thing. We are going to use this backwards to go from what we really want to what we shop for. Okay, so let's do it backwards. The Wall family wants to spend $1,100 a month. They want also a 6% and 30-year loan. So it's going to be $6 for every $1,000 of mortgage they can get. The opposite of multiplying from before is dividing. We're going to take their 1,100 and divide it by 6. You could imagine that they walk into the bank with a suitcase full of money and they give $6 to the bank teller. And the bank teller says, great, at this point, you've qualified for $1,000 of loan. And then they hand another $6 to the bank teller. And the bank teller says, great, now you're up to a $2,000 loan. And they keep doing that until they run out of money in their suitcases. So how many times can they give $6 to the bank teller? We have to take our 1,100, divide it by 6, and we get about 183. So each time they do that, they get $183,000 of loan. And of course, we don't write it that way. We're going to write it as $183,000. Does that make sense, either with my bank teller story or not?
Can we do another example of that?
Sure. So let's make it up. How much do you want to spend per month in this problem?
Let's do like 12,000.
It was quiet. Tell me again, please.
Like 13,000.
Okay. And then tell me how many years and what rate.
The rate is like 7% and let's do 30 years.
Okay. So that means the number we're dividing by is $6.65. So that gives me about 195,000.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, we're making some progress. We now know two things. We know that they decided 1,100 per month would fit their budget based on their income. And we know that they can look for a loan of about 183,000. By the way, no, I'm not going to do by the way. That way complicated. Does everyone know about Zillow? Well, we have this link right here.
I've never heard of it.
You've never, okay, so if I open, and then I can just put in some address. I pick, does Dillard go up to the 500s? Let's see. It doesn't look like this. No, I'm not sure. And put in a valid address, then you can see all the home values around it. It's kind of cool. Okay, anyway, so they go on Zillow and do some house shopping and see about what they get. But we simplified things way too much. So let's talk about how home buying is really a little more complicated. First, the biggest change, you have a down payment. The loan will only cover the cost of the house minus the down payment, because you don't need the loan for what you've already paid. We purposefully, in what we just did, included the down payment in sort of our estimate, because in real life, the Walton probably doesn't have a whole down payment just sitting around in the bank. They're to, grandparents or friends or whatever and say, hey, could you loan us some money that we'll pay you back to help us with our down payment? So it's often responsibility to deal with it,
Sorry, don't understand.
then we are worrying about that. Okay, and most mortgages have fees, sometimes points. It costs usually 1%, 2%, 3% to actually get the mortgage. Some mortgages require making some payments up front, a little extra down payment. You have to pay for things like your inspection and surveying and audits. And there's lots of fees, attorney's fees, brokerage fees, titles fee, insurance fee, deeds, mortgage, reporting, so on. And most mortgages require prepaying some homeowner insurance and property taxes. So let's deal with all those little issues. So we just decided that they could afford roughly $183,000 of home. We're going to split that up with 20% and 80%. So 20% will be the down payment. And the other 80% will be their loan. As we've done several times today, if I want to find 20% of a number, I do RIPLOP and multiply. So I get 0.2 times my 183,000. Everyone okay with left out of percent? Changing a 20 to a 0.2. So what is that? 0.2 times 183,000, 36,600. And then similarly, in my other color, 80% becomes 0.8. Okay, everyone okay with breaking things up this way? I see a yes in the chat.
No. Oh, I see, never mind.
Okay. So, oops. Next part, the actual loan they have is, again, 30 years and 6%. So let's get that little chart. And their loan was 146,400. That becomes 146.4 thousands. Everyone okay with that? I'm sort of getting rid of those digits. So I'll take the 146.4, multiply it by the $6 from the table. And I get 878.40. So this is smaller. Again, they budgeted 1,100, and we're saying this is okay because the extra amount between the 878 and the 1,100, they can use to help pay back the grandparents that were loaning them some down payment money or things like that. Okay, bunch more details. The mortgage has a 3% fee, so let's deal with that. So we want 3% of the 146,400. So that becomes 0.03 times . So $4,392. Ouch, that's a big fee. The first month's mortgage payment must be paid up front. So that was 878.40. Then we had inspections cost 200. And then the various stuff was 900. And we'll add that all up. Oh, and we forgot the 36,600. For the down payment. Okay, now we add all that up. What do we get? So 4,392 plus 878.4 plus 200 plus 900 plus 36,600. Okay, check on your calculator. I got $42,970.40. Other people get that too. Yeah, 42. Yep, the answer key here was round. Okay. It's 3:29, so we're pretty much done with this little bit. We'll have more about payments and banks and stuff to do next time. We're not done with mortgages, but you can do some of that. If you go down to the 10 exercises, then you can get a start on those. Or if you do the random exercises, then you could do A, B, and C, but not yet D or E. So if you want to get a head start, you can. But yeah, overall, hard to buy a house. We need a lot of money. That's again why they budgeted for a bigger amount than their monthly payment, because they're probably repaying somebody for this. Maybe they're repaying themselves. They had money set aside for their kids' college, and they're going to repay their college savings as they pay off the beginning of their house or something like that. Any other questions before we stop the recording in class? No. Okay, end of announcement things. Remember that homework has due dates, but it is much, much better to turn it in late than never. The penalty for turning things in late is small. We can talk about that more if you missed that discussion before the recording started. And have a good day. I'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you.